What does freedom really mean? Is it the absence of chains, or is it something deeper? History is filled with revolutions, escapes, and struggles for independence. Yet many people discover that even after they are free, something still holds them captive. Exodus is not just a story about leaving slavery behind. It is about learning how to live as free people under God. In this video, we'll journey through Exodus, from oppression to deliverance, and see how this ancient story still speaks to power, suffering, faith, and freedom today. Overview. Exodus is the second book of the Bible and one of its most dramatic narratives. It tells the story of Israel's transformation from an enslaved people into a nation shaped by God's presence and law. Traditionally attributed to Moses, Exodus picks up where Genesis ends. The descendants of Abraham have grown into a large population living in Egypt. What begins as hospitality slowly turns into fear, and fear turns into oppression. Exodus reveals a God who hears suffering, confronts injustice, and acts in history. It is not only a rescue story, but a formation story. God does not simply pull Israel out of Egypt. He shapes them into a people who know Him. Slavery in Egypt and the cry of the oppressed, Exodus 1-2. The Israelites prosper in Egypt, but their growth alarms Pharaoh. Afraid of losing control, he enslaves them and orders the death of their newborn sons. Oppression becomes policy. Fear becomes law. Yet even here, resistance rises quietly. Hebrew midwives refuse to kill innocent children. Mothers hide their sons. One child is placed in a basket and set afloat on the Nile. Moses grows up in Pharaoh's household, caught between privilege and pain. When he kills an Egyptian in anger, he flees into the wilderness. What looks like failure becomes preparation. Exodus shows that God often works behind the scenes long before deliverance arrives. God reveals His name and power, Exodus 3-6. In the wilderness, Moses encounters God in a burning bush that is not consumed. God calls him to return to Egypt and confront Pharaoh. Moses hesitates. He doubts his ability. He fears rejection. God responds not by praising Moses, but by revealing Himself. I am who I am, Exodus 3:14. This name reveals a God who is self-existent, faithful, and present. God promises to act, not because Israel is strong, but because He is faithful to His covenant. When Moses returns, Pharaoh resists. Oppression increases. Freedom seems farther away than ever. Exodus makes it clear that obedience does not always bring immediate relief. Plagues in the power struggle, Exodus 7-13. The plagues are not random acts of destruction. Each one challenges Egypt's gods and exposes the limits of human power. Water turns to blood. Darkness covers the land. Life collapses under judgment. Pharaoh's heart hardens. Pride refuses to let go. The final plague, the death of the firstborn, brings Egypt to its knees. Israel is spared through the Passover, marked by the blood on their doorposts. Deliverance comes through obedience and trust, not military strength. That night, slavery ends. Egypt urges Israel to leave. Chains fall. A nation walks into freedom. Crossing the sea and learning trust, Exodus 14-18. Freedom is quickly tested. Trapped between the sea and Pharaoh's army, fear returns. The people panic. Doubt rises. God parts the sea. Israel walks through on dry ground. The same waters that saved them destroy their enemies. Yet the wilderness reveals another challenge. Freedom does not erase fear overnight. The people complain about food, water, and uncertainty. God provides manna from heaven and water from the rock. Each day becomes a lesson in trust. Exodus teaches that miracles may start freedom, but faith sustains it. Covenant, law, and God's presence, Exodus 19-24. At Mount Sinai, God meets Israel in thunder, fire, and cloud. He gives the 10 Commandments, not as chains, but as guidance for free people. The law reveals God's character and His desire for justice, worship, and community. Israel agrees to the covenant, but quickly breaks it. The golden calf exposes how easily people return to old habits when fear rises. Even so, God does not abandon them. He renews the covenant and chooses to dwell among them. Exodus ends not with a destination, but with presence. The tabernacle and God among his people, Exodus 25-40. The tabernacle becomes the visible sign that God lives among Israel. He is not distant. He travels with them. A pillar of cloud by day and fire by night leads their journey. The book closes with God's glory filling the tabernacle. The people are free, guided, and no longer alone. Key themes in Exodus. God hears the cry of the oppressed. Suffering does not go unnoticed. Freedom begins with God's action. Deliverance is initiated by God, not human strength. Power has limits. Human authority fades, but God's power endures. Faith requires trust over time. Freedom is a process, not a moment. Law is guidance, not bondage. God's commands shape healthy freedom. God's presence among his people. God chooses to dwell with those he rescues. Key verses in Exodus. Exodus 3 verse 7, I have seen the misery of my people. God acknowledges suffering. Exodus 3 verse 14, I am who I am. God reveals his nature. Exodus 12 verse 13, the blood will be a sign for you. Deliverance through obedience. Exodus 14 verse 14, the Lord will fight for you. Trust in God's power. Exodus 16 verse 4, I will rain down bread from heaven. Daily dependence. Exodus 19 verse 5, you will be my treasured possession. Covenant identity. Exodus 40 verse 34, the glory of the Lord filled the tabernacle. God's presence among his people. Relevance today. Exodus speaks powerfully to a world shaped by oppression, fear, and false freedom. It reminds us that freedom is not just escape from hardship, but transformation of the heart. Many leave Egypt physically, yet carry Egypt within them. Exodus invites reflection. What still holds us captive? Fear, pride, control, or comfort? The story offers hope. God still hears. God still delivers. And God still desires to dwell with his people. Closing thought. Exodus shows us that freedom is not the end of the journey. It is the beginning of learning how to live with God. The same God who brought Israel out of Egypt still leads people today, step by step, toward true freedom.